Hello everyone. So in today's video we are going to solve some practice questions on list, tuples and dictionaries. Here we have two practical questions and at the end of the video I will show you guys some homework questions. So here is our first questions here. Write a Python program to find the most frequent occurring number in a given list. So here is the list of numbers. So we have to find the most occurring numbers in that list and how many times that number repeats we will show at the output. Let's start our program by defining the function. Here first I define the function with def keyword and then I give the name of the function. In the parentheses I give the parameter numbers and make sure to give the colon at the end of the function. So this function is used to find the most frequent elements in a given list of numbers. After that I pass a variable named frequency that is used to initialize an empty dictionary to store the frequency count of each number in the input list. So basically this variable is used to store the counting of the elements, how many times that element repeats. So after that here I use the for loop. For loop is used for the repetition purpose. So this line starts a loop that iterates over each element num in the numbers list. So the after that I will use the if conditions here. If else condition that is used to check if the current num is already key in the frequency dictionary or not. So if it is, then the corresponding value is incremented by 1. If not, then a new key value pair is added to the dictionary with the num as the key and the initial count of 1. The value num that I give in the square bracket with frequency is the key to the dictionary. After that I use the max underscore count variable. Basically this line finds the maximum count among the values in the frequency dictionary using the max function. It retrieves the highest count of any number in the input list. Basically the purpose of this line is to check the highest count of any number that comes in the input list. Inside the max function I will use the frequency, the name of the dictionary, and then I will use dot values function here. Here I will use another variable most underscore frequent and pass a list to that variable. So this line uses key value pairs in the dictionary frequency and select only those keys where the current value is equals to the maximum count. The resulting keys are stored in the element most underscore frequent and this shows the most frequently occurring elements to the output. So at the end, I will return both maximum underscore count or maximum underscore frequent. It iterates over each key value pair in the frequency dictionary and checks the condition value equals to the max underscore count. So if the condition is true, it includes that key in a new list, name most underscore frequent. So after that, I will return the list most underscore frequent and the max underscore count variable. Basically, it represents the result of the function call. After that, I will pass a list. So let's copy the list and paste at the end. This list serves as an input for our function. So after that, I will create another variable named result. So this variable is passing my underscore list as an argument to the function and the function returns the result and that result is going to be stored in this variable. So basically this result variable stores our result, that is the return values of our function. After that I will use the indexing technique to print the most frequent elements in the list and their count. So here I will use the result with index 0 and then I will use result with index 1. So the result 0 is used to print the maximum count and the result 1 is used to print the most frequent elements in the list. The indexing techniques entirely depends upon the returns variable that our function returns. So here first our function will return the max underscore count. So the index 0 is responsible to print the maximum count and then our function will return the most underscore frequent. So the result index 1 is responsible for printing the most occurring elements in the list. So you can change the pattern for 0 and 1 index. It's all entirely up to you. So if you want to print the most frequent element at the index 0, so you just need to change your return line Here line number 14. Did a mistake here. It shows error on line 13. Let's resolve our issue. What is the mistake here? So let's recheck our code and see what mistake I've done. It is just because I did comma. So let's remove the comma and clear the terminal window and rerun our program to see whether this time our program runs or not. Here it give an error for line 9. What is the mistake I did in line 9? Oh, I didn't give the if condition with else. So let's give the if condition first here. Make sure to read each line of code that you have written so that if you did a mistake then you can correct it. In VS Code or PyCharm or any other Python software, the terminal window will show the error on which line you did a mistake. So it is easy for you to solve directly on that line error. So it helps really for the programmer to solve the problems and issues. Let's run our code and see this time it works or not. It gives the most frequent number is 4, but the most frequent number in the list is 2 and the most count number is 2. It shuffles the most frequent number with the most count number. This is just because of the indexing. So here what I do is I will give the index 1 in place of 0 and vice versa. This is because our function returns the max underscore count first at the index 0. So this is the reason of this error. Let's run again our code and I hope this time it will work. And it gives the most frequent number is 2 and the most count number is 4. Let's let's change the list and let's see whether it works for the other variables or not. So let's remove 2 and place 4 in each place in the list where 2 is present. I hope this time it will work and show the most frequent number is 4. So the most frequent number is 4 and the maximum number of count is 5. As you guys have seen that this problem gives the correct output. So let's move towards our next problem statement, and that is to write a Python program to calculate the Euclidean distance between 2 points represented as tuples in a list. So basically the Euclidean distance is a measure of a straight line distance between 2 points in a Euclidean space. So mostly mathematicians used in mathematics and data analysis. We can use this formula by using the Pythagoras theorem. In a two-dimensional space, the equivalent distance between 2 points x1 y1 and x2 y2 is given by the formula under root x square x2 minus x1 whole square plus y2 minus y1 whole square. So this is our tuple represented as a list. So first write the function with def keyword and the name is max underscore distance and pass two parameters point 1 and point 2, and after that I give the colon here and make sure to give the math library here. First I import math. So this is because we are calculating the equation, so make sure to import the math library. And if you didn't install the math library, then go to the extensions in VS Code and install it. So let me check whether I've installed it or not. In the extension tab, search for the math. Just write the math and it will show whether it is installed or not. Here, as you guys see at the top, so let install it. It is installed in just second. So it is installing here, and as you guys seen, it is installed. So let move towards our program. I will give the formula of the distance to this distance variable, and after that I will return this distance. So this function is used to return the distance, and we will make another function that is responsible for calculating the distance. We cannot write the formula in exact manner. So what we will do is to use the indexing technique here. So the index will show whether it is x2 or x1 or whether the variable is y1 or y2. For x2 I will write the point 2 index 0 that shows x2, and for x1 I will write the point 1 index 0 that will show the x1. So for y2 I write the exact point 2 but this time the index is 1, and for y1 I write the point 1 but this time index is 1. So this is how we write, and for the square I use the double star and the number 2. So this is how we can write the same equation in VS Code. After that I will return the variable distance. So this function ends here, and we will create another function with def keyword, and the name of this function is min underscore distance for calculating the distance, and it returns the minimum distance between 2 points, and it takes points as a parameter. So after creating the function, let's write a code for this function. So basically I here create first loop for I in range, and in the range function I pass the length of points. So basically the purpose of this function is to take a list of points and calculate the minimum distance between any 2 points in the list. So it iterates over the list of points using the nested loop and call the calculate distance function to calculate the distance between each pair of points. If a calculated distance is smaller than the current distance, so it updates the minimum distance with a new value. Finally it returns the minimum distance at the last. So this is how this function works. Here I use the nested loop. Nested loop is used for the iteration purpose of updating the list of the minimum distance. I start the second range function with I plus 1. This is because it ensures that each pair of point is considered only once and avoids to duplicate pair where the order is reversed. So it starts with I plus 1 and ends 1 before the length points. So this variable is used to calculate the distance. So it calls the max underscore distance function to calculate the distance between each pair of points. I use the index technique here, index I and j. This is because it updates the current pair of points as an argument. So every time the for loop iterates, it will update the each pair of point in a list and assign the result to a variable distance. I use if condition here. This is because if a calculated distance is smaller than the current minimum distance, it will update the min underscore distance with the new value. Finally, it returns the minimum distance at the last of the function. Finally, we test the function by creating a list of points. Points underscore list represented as tuple. In this case, we have a 4 points: 1, comma 2, 3, comma 4, 5, comma 6, and 7, comma 8. Let's copy it from above and paste it at the last. So finally we will create another variable that is the result, and this variable is used to call the function min underscore distance and pass the point underscore list as an argument and store the result in it. And finally we will print the variable result that is used to calculate the minimum distance. So this is how we can calculate the minimum distance between each pair of points. So let's run our code and see whether it works or not. But before, let me write another thing, and that is the mean underscore distance is equals to float inf. The float inf represent positive infinity in Python. It is a special floating point value that is greater than any finite number. So this initializing is commonly used when searching for the minimum value in a list or when we want to find minimum distance in an algorithm. By starting with a large value such as positive infinity, any smaller value encountered during the computation will replace the initial value of minimum distance. So that's the reason we write it here. So let's run our code. It shows an error just because I write the point instead of the points. So this is why it is showing an error. So let's rerun our code and see whether it works this time or not. Here it shows the minimum distance is 2.8282. So let me remove the inf and rerun again, and this time it will not show any output. Here it shows 0.0. So this is because it did not have subsequent distance. to compare whether the distance smaller distance is found or not. So make sure to give the INF. If you don't want to assign float infinity, then just assign the none to the variable min distance so that it can compare the subsequent distance to find the smaller distance. Otherwise it will show output 0 on the screen. So these are the practice questions for your practice, and make sure to solve all the questions by your own. If you have any difficulty, you can ask me in comment section. So this is all for today's lecture. Thank you very much.